Welcome to the Mayflower Society Genealogy Mini-Webinar, Secondary Source Documents. In this webinar, we'll discuss what secondary source documents are and when they are appropriate for use in documenting your lineage for a Mayflower Society application. As you learned from the webinar, What are Vital Records? When gathering documentation for your Mayflower application, you should seek available and accessible vital records, meaning birth, marriage, and/or death certificates, to document the life events of your family. Eventually, you will reach an era, and it will vary depending on where your family lived, that precedes the creation of vital records. When this happens, you will need to rely on what the Mayflower Society refers to as secondary source records to document your ancestors' lives. Secondary sources may cover the same event as a vital record, but they are not the official document that was generated to record the event. Some examples include federal and state census records, newspaper accounts of marriages and obituaries, genealogical articles or well-documented published family genealogies, county, town, and community histories, and images of readable headstones. Be sure to watch our current and upcoming webinars for details on including these types of secondary sources. When considering whether or not a published family genealogy will be viewed as an acceptable source, there are some guidelines to keep in mind. First, when was the book or article published? A book published in the 1980s purporting to claim family connections from the late 1700s will be called into question because the author could not have interviewed family members with direct knowledge of the individuals documented. Unless it is very well cited, and in which case those citations should be found and used rather than the published genealogy, it will likely not be accepted. Next, be sure to read the author's notes, typically found at the beginning of the publication. These should include how they came to be aware of the biographical details they have included. Did they interview family members who could have been just a generation or two removed from the ancestors documented? Did they have access to family Bibles or other documentation? Be sure to review the author's notes or explanation for regarding the layout and how to follow the lineage. While some published genealogies have an easy-to-follow format, others do not. Take care not to misinterpret parent-child connections. You should also review the author's notes regarding abbreviations. You will often find these at the beginning of the publication. Again, you don't want to misinterpret family connections. As a general rule, no one but a staff genealogist of the Mayflower Society can confirm the acceptance or rejection of a given document or publication in the review of your lineage and your application to the Mayflower Society. Your member society historian can help you evaluate what is likely to be acceptable, but they do not have the final word. Many acceptable secondary sources, especially county, town, and community histories, can be found online. Using the browser and search engine of your choice, search for books published on the history of the areas in which your ancestors lived. Many include biographical sketches with useful information. When obtaining copies of pertinent pages from a publication, be sure to get the title page. If the year of publication is not included on the title page, capture the page on which that appears as well. For genealogies in the most common format, in which someone is listed as a child within their parent's biographical sketch, and then appears as an adult with their own sketch on a separate page, be sure to capture all of the applicable pages from both sketches, not just the sketch featuring the individual as an adult. We hope you've learned something new about secondary source documents, and we wish you success in your genealogical pursuits.